So we're live. Just holding off on this. So we're live once again with our personal format, the Voice of Freedom. This is your brother Chairman Hunter, and I stopped doing this for a long time, and now I'm back at doing it again. But I'm back at doing it again for a good reason, because I saw it as necessary to come back on. Let me go ahead and do this. I make my mic go up a little bit. Let's see, where is that at? It's right over there. Let me grab it real quick. I'm gonna just adjust my mic because I think you might be having a problem hearing me. Since we're just doing the format again, it's kind of impromptu first time around. Let's see. Let's go ahead and let's kick it up that. Let's kick up the mic. Let's do it like that. Okay, come on. My mouse is double clicking everything right out the box. It's driving me crazy. All right, let's see. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we should be good to go. All right, so we're live again, and we're live in the format, the Voice of Freedom. And if you don't understand this format, what we're doing is we are talking about, my mic is too high now. We're talking about current news, things that's happening today, and we are looping this back around into what we can do about it, how it affects our life, and how we can actually make something of it. Because personally, knowing the news and all this other stuff seems quite useless to me if we don't know how to use it in our life and to make it something that can work for us, right? I mean, information is great, but information requires, is basically the foundation to give us the ability to make decisions. And if we're not looking at what we can do, then we're just wasting our time. And why even listen to the news anyway? Because what's going to happen to you is going to happen to you no matter what you do or what you know. That's my opinion. So if you take in some piece of information, then you need to take the responsibility of crafting or adding it to your strategy, to your hullabaloo and what to do overall. So I'm going to share this out. I'm choosing to do this on this page instead of on my main, but I wanted to do that intentionally. So I have to now share this back out. Let's see, let's grab it, preview link, view post, and there it goes. And I'm going to just go ahead, and there, I'm guessing that's it right there. Control A, Control C. Look at me. I'm doing this like I kind of don't want to do it there. I kind of want to do it on my phone. So let's see, let's give me a second. Let's share it on the phone. Let's do it on the phone. Let's see. We can go Voice of Freedom. Okay. And from the Voice of Freedom, let's share the live. And we're going to share the live back to my main page. I'm just going to put here, restarting the Voice of Freedom show now live. How about that? And we'll hit share now. And we'll do like that. So there we go. Okay. Now, a lot has happened since we used to do this. And I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. A lot has happened since we used to do this. Now we have several different things that we've put together with the Freedom Nation, but I just really want to jump right into the topic. I want to jump directly into what we're supposed to be talking about. And what we're supposed to be talking about is a little piece of news that just came across the way. And if you haven't seen that piece of news, if it's brand new to you, then let me share it with you. Let me share it with you. And in the fashion of how we used to do this, I will do it the way we used to do it. And that is, we used to do it like this. So Bloomberg ranks, tell you what, let's take it from this source right here because I think it's cooler. there's a website called The Voice of Africa. And let's pull up The Voice of Africa. Where is it at? Here, let's put it inside of our other window so you can see it. Okay. And here we go. There you go. And that's it right there. So we can see it. And this is the headline that we're talking about today. Ghana cedi becomes world's best performing currency. And this is making headlines today. I saw this on LinkedIn, and it kind of got me a buzz because I started to think, well, how much do we ever think about currency and money? You know, people talking about getting the bag and so forth and so on. But do we really understand currency? Do we understand the difference between a currency and money? Do we understand that there is this big difference between these two things, right? Money essentially can be anything that allows you to purchase something, to buy something. Whereas a currency is something that represents the wealth of the nation itself. And really, in all honesty, it doesn't represent wealth. We might ask ourselves, you know, Nigeria has more oil reserves than Ghana does. So you ask yourself, how in the world can one currency start to be worth more or less than another if their sovereign wealth, which is their minerals and their raw materials, don't add up? It doesn't like give you what the money equals. You don't see the equality. And people like to say, Africa's rich, man, blah, blah. Yeah, Africa is rich in the ground, not rich on top of the ground. GDP, gross domestic product, this terminologies around economy, is based on things you can use. So it doesn't calculate what's in your ground. It calculates what you can pull out of your ground and put into production and make functional, because that determines how people live lives. So we say, how did this happen? What do they mean by the world's best performing currency? Well, in basic sense, it doesn't mean that it's the best currency. Don't go out there and start buying Ghanaian cedi. You'll be sad. It means that it became strong in comparison against other currencies that are traded on Forex and that are also have deals with the IMF, with the International Monetary Fund, right? So now when you look at that currency, it grew by 45%. It grew by 45% against the US dollar. That's the big hullabaloo what to do, right? And in the beginning of the year, it was around 15 cents to the dollar. And it steadily climbed to trade just above the 10-cent mark. It sounds amazing, no, because you say it was worth 15 cents, now it's worth 10 cents. Or worth 10 cents, now it's worth 15 cents. What is it, right? So let's just take a look. We can go ahead and let's run it. Let's look at one Ghanaian cedi to USD. All right, so now it's 0.97 US dollars. And that is 0.097 US dollars. Basically, it's worth 10 cents. But we can look at the jump, right? So it used to be worth only 6 cents. So it almost doubled in value. Who benefits from that? The Ghanaian people benefit from that. How? Because they can buy stuff cheaper now. It's not complicated in that way. If you had, tell you what, let's see if I have some Ghanaian seafood. All right, I got some Ghanaian seafood. My Magic International Money Box. So a Magic International Money Box, we open it up. Bum, bum, bum. And inside of it, I have got currency from all over the world. And somewhere in here, I've got some Ghanaian money. But the point is just imagine this. This is not Ghanaian Sifa. So imagine I have 20. This is 20 yuan. This is Chinese money. So imagine I had 20 yuan or 20. Say this is cedi, okay? And today I go into the market and I buy imported goods, and it spends 20 times 5 cents, gets me $1 worth of stuff. But then if it's worth 10 cents, it gives me $2 worth of stuff. So all of a sudden, all my money is able to buy twice as much as it could yesterday. And that's based on the concept of how they're actually managing that currency. A lot of us don't think about this. You know, we talk about building something. We talk about building communities. We talk about growing, and we're not talking about currency policy. We don't have conversations like nations, but we want to be one. And that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. It might make sense to somebody else. But let me say it again. We don't have conversations like nations, but we want to be treated like one. And that's ludicrous. You can't even come to the table and discuss things the way a nation discuss things. I don't talk about sovereign wealth. I don't talk about our policies towards currency. None of that stuff matters when you're talking to the black community. Nothing. The biggest two things that anyone, or I say three things that anyone in the black community could ever offer as leverage on a negotiating table is: one, just raw money. I have liquid funds. Two, assets. Three, influence. And influence just meaning having a method to communicate to people to get them to do what you want them to do. That's the idea. I have a method to communicate you to do what I want you to do, or you to do what I want you to do, and not you to get me to do what you want me to do. Okay? So that boils down to everything that there's any value around when it comes to what the black community has to actually negotiate with. And that's not much. That's not much. That's not much of nothing, actually. Right? So the question then becomes, how do we start having a conversation just like Ghana does, or like anybody else does, where they can start talking, or we can start talking about the power of the value of our organization, of our community. They're talking about the value of their country when they say that it's cedi. I mean, literally, the policies that are done increase the wealth of everybody by 100% overnight. That's what happened when Ghana strengthened their currency. They did that by buying a lot of stuff or producing a lot of stuff in-house. If you notice, a couple of months ago, they cut off the import of several things. They focused on bringing certain things that they would do from themselves and then exporting certain things more often. And because of that, Ghana was able to double the value of their currency. And everybody, this morning, if they imported beef or chicken, it's half the price today. If they imported a car, the car is half the price of what it was yesterday, today. That's what the power of Ghana's currency now providing there. How often do we as African Americans have a conversation about currency policy? That's not in our leverage stack. We don't have that. You can have the biggest businesses out there. So you want to count the largest black-owned company in the United States of America, and that therefore the largest African-American-owned company in the world is a multi-billion-dollar company that distributes products for other computer companies, then does IT work, and does also sourcing and fulfillment. That's the largest one, multi-billion-dollar company. What do they have to offer as far as leverage? Assets, fluid money, somebody else's money. Assets, fluid money, somebody else's money. And the ability to influence other people that are in the range of influence, that can be influenced by their assets and that money, somebody else's money. What does it that the president of Ghana gets to sit down and do? Oh, he can talk about all kinds of stuff. He can talk about their assets. He can talk about the workforce, the people, influence, and he can talk about the power of their currency to negotiate different deals with other countries, especially countries that are willing to settle inside of his currency. Or even bigger now, woke up this morning and the Treasury had 100,000, 200,000, 5 billion, 10 billion cedi in it, and now it's worth twice as much as it was before. It sounds like a boring topic. I said, oh, what do I know about currency? What can I do about currency? Well, we live in a great age. We live in a period of time where you can actually sit down and create your own currency. We live in this amazing period of time where we can create our own currency. Ain't nobody been able to do that before so quickly. But every single group that wants to set themselves up can gain a certain amount of technical acumen, and with that technical acumen, launch their own currency for their community. Now, what's happening in Ghana? Why is the price going up? Because most currency is fiat currency. It deals with several calculations, but if I were to boil it down, it deals with what do I believe your country can do? What do I feel is the outlook for your country? What will you produce? What will you create? The value see in the market. We look at Bitcoin and stuff like that, and that value is driven by the same stuff. That value for Bitcoin and everything else is driven by the idea of its value, its intrinsic value inside the market based on what people assume that it will be. And that can run along so many different constructs. But the benefit of the currency doesn't come inside of its fiat orientation. It comes in its transactional orientation. So when you've got the people in Ghana able to transact, that's when the average man, sees the benefit of it. What transactional currency does black people have? African Americans. We have no control of the U.S. dollar. When the head of the Federal Reserve gets up and walks down there, Donald Trump making fun of him this morning, calling him Mr. Too Late. So when Mr. Too Late shows up and adjusts interest rates, and that's not even interest rates for us as consumers, that's interest rates forwarded to loaning money to banks, to financial institutions, right? So when they do that, when they control currency policy, it adjusts the entire economy. Who is it that's enjoying currency policy, even for your local community? Do you have a sovereign wealth concept while you living in downtown Detroit? Or while you living in Philadelphia? No, you do not. Because ain't no black person in their life ever went downtown Detroit and started digging up the ground. And as they started to dig up the ground, actually was able to pull up nothing that nobody could use so that it would develop the financial stability of your community. When we say we own the block, what you own? You own the buildings on top, but you don't own no concrete. You don't own any rebar. You don't own any of the metals taken to make that rebar. You don't have any foundational elements when you claim that you want to build your ideal community in the midst of a city where it's already been established, you will not own what's underneath your feet. So you have no sovereign wealth. You have no sovereign wealth. And no matter if your people stay inside of Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, College Park, some parts in the city, if you stay there for 50 years and you work your butt off, then you still will never be able to leverage more than some assets, some liquid money, and the ability to communicate and influence other people. And that's just not enough. That's not enough leverage to ensure your future. We have to get to another level. Now, this is the part where I talk about why we say, hey, let's step into the future. One thing I find out about us as African Americans is that we are so behind the eight ball when it comes to technology. We like to talk about it. We use buzzwords, but we ain't doing it. Right? How many of us can actually program in the languages that allow us to build our own cryptocurrencies? How many of us can? If I named the languages right now, would it resonate with you? Would you say, I have that technology, I know that knowledge? No. But, that's one thing we did at Freedom Nation. I'm glad that God chose that we started out as techno brats. We technology people first. So when it came time to build our own currency, we built our own currency. We built the Freedom Credit, FCR. You can look at it. It's a token on the Binance chain. And we wrote that token by hand ourselves. That's our currency. It belongs to us. We manipulate currency policy on the FCR. And like every other country, we're not a country, but we're operating with country mentality because our concept is leverage for our people. We want our people to have true leverage. Then we think about currency policies and how to manipulate those and how to manipulate them to your benefit. Like I said, if you're in Ghana today, this morning, you are a very happy person because that currency you have, like I said, is my magic currency box. Okay, that's my current thing there. Go in my magic currency box. I was trying to see if I had some Ghanaian in here, and I don't know if I do. I've got all kinds of stuff from all kinds of places, but I haven't been to Ghana in a while. I don't even know what that is. What is that? Oh, that's Uzbekistan. See that one? But I got a whole bunch of it. And all this money through here, each country able to manipulate their own situation. Each set of people using leverage, the won, the yen, the ringgit, okay? So many different things. And you say, well, why don't we have one universal currency? Good reason, because you can't retain sovereign wealth unless you have your own currency. Your buying power and being able to exchange inside your own currency is a powerful thing. So being able to resolve debts, and here, like I said, if you woke up in Ghana this morning, you had 1 million cedi in your hand, and that 1 million cedi was worth your 1 million cedi was worth 5 cents a pop. 5 cents a pop. Okay? So you want to take 20 times 20. So you take 1/20th of $1 million. My brain just went dead. Anyway, it's $50,000. So you had 1 million cedi this morning. 2 mornings ago. 2 mornings ago, it was worth $50,000. Now it's worth $100,000. That your house didn't go up through inflation. Nothing changed. Sister Nikki, how you doing? Yes, Ghanaian cedi. I guess I wouldn't go out tomorrow and start buying cedi because, a couple years ago, cedi had a horrible crash. It went down by almost half its value. It lost 30% actually of its value, and that hurt people because they thought they had $100 in their pocket and woke up one morning with $70 in their pocket. Or thought they had $1 million and woke up with $700,000. To lose $300,000 overnight is a big thing. But these people have gained millions If you look at the GDP, the overall amount of money in circulation inside of Ghana, and you can look at their central bank, you go to their central bank and you look at those numbers, then you'll find out exactly how much money they have, and it just doubled. Your buying power increased times 2. Assalamu alaikum. That's a wonderful thing. Share. Do me a favor. Share this out. Share this out. We started this platform again. I'll be doing it twice a week now. We're back on the Voice of Freedom. Everybody keeps saying, Farouk, you know, we miss you coming and getting pissed off. Now, I'm not as pissed off and fired. I'm all this gray in my hair. I'm tired. It slows me down a little bit. It's nighttime for everybody else. Where I'm sitting is 7 o'clock in the morning. But the thing is that our own currency, what do we have at the Freedom Nation? We have our own currency. This represents the digital currency. It's a physical form of our digital currency. Okay, we have these in several different denominations. Okay, but it's a physical form of our digital currency because we understand that if you're going to build something, if you're going to build a community, you need to have some manipulation over currency. Now I'm gonna toss this into 3 areas, because as soon as I go from saying money to saying currency, people get lost. I used to get lost, to be very honest with you, right? So let me go ahead and let's talk about the 3 ways that currency can actually hold value. The first way is the old-fashioned way, okay? Old-fashioned says you take anything. It doesn't matter what it is. These are lights that we sell at Besco, okay? You take anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Just gold, silver, whatever it is. If it's you know, metal, so you've got, or wood, it doesn't matter. And you put that inside of a reserve. You put that in a place where it's locked up somewhere and no one can touch it. The United States of America has a Federal Reserve. We expect Fort Knox to be filled with gold bars, okay, for whatever that means right now. And then that entity that holds that will then issue out currency. And it doesn't matter what the currency looked like. You know, the original currency was literally just a sheet of paper, kind of an IOU. I got this much of your stuff inside my locker. Lock it in the locker. I got this much stuff in my locker. It's your stuff, right? So that's the traditional asset-based currency. That's the gold standard. That's all of that concept. That's how currency started. People were holding things of value, real physical things, and saying, I hold that. And then the person who had the piece of paper, who had the note, and if you look on your dollar bill, you'll see it says note. It had the note would actually then determine the value based on who they handed it to. Right? And that was all based on the trade. So that's the old currency. Now let's get to the second level currency, fiat. Now, fiat-based currency deals with several different things. Fiat basically boils down to what confidence do I have in this currency? And that can be like, what is the confidence I have that if I spend it, I'm going to get what I need to get from it? So a country can have all the stuff in the world going for it, and then all of a sudden, you know, I remember seeing, I just can't forget this, I can't wipe it out of my mind. I remember seeing a little kid after the United States invasion in Iraq, and he was walking trying to get a gallon of water. And he had a big, huge, double, triple, 4 times the size stack of money. And he had this big, huge stack of money, and he couldn't buy a gallon of water. It had lost all the value because every single thing, like everything that any hope that currency would be cashed in and had really value had left. It was gone. So it didn't mean nothing no more. And that's how that can happen. So we can claim that, you know, people will claim that it's futures, like the future production of that country, the future GDP aspects, how they pay down their debt, all that kind of stuff, and say that's what's going to determine the value of the currency. Yeah, that's great. That's what people use in order to develop that value and then set that value. And it works well for those people who want to do crooked stuff. Because the more they control the news, the more they control the narrative, then the more they control the value of the currencies, and therefore they can buy more and leverage it against other people. And then when you tell people they have to settle their debts in your currency, then you can raise and drop your currency at will and change what that debt actually means because you reduce the value of their currency. That's a little math, but I'm telling you that's how it goes, and that's how they keep a lot of people in debt. So when you have someone like BRICS, if you ever heard about these BRICS people, and BRICS is becoming a big thing, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. If you think about these BRICS countries and what they're doing and what they're trying to move to, they've already started to accept that people can settle their debts in their own currency versus having to exchange it to the other currency and then go from there, where they lose money on every exchange, right? It's a huge thing. It's huge, right? Like I said, it's something that when we're Black Americans, we go to the table, we negotiate. We are not able to negotiate currency policies. We are not able to negotiate the power of our currency, and it weakens us. It weakens us horribly. If you look at the number of African Americans who are actually able to do some amazing things, they say that there's a million millionaires, but that's not really true. What it really is they're millionaires on paper. Do you know what it takes to make a Black millionaire? I'm a Black millionaire. Okay? I'm a Black millionaire. I don't feel like a millionaire. I don't have $1 million in the bank right now. That doesn't make me a Black millionaire. The average person who's called a Black millionaire owns a $500,000 house. That's half of it. Has a certain amount of earnings and a certain amount of stuff, money in their 401k, so forth and so on. So they're probably insolvent at the rate of about maybe $15,000 to $20,000 a month, maximum. Maximum. And that's before they spend it out. They can spend that money out. That money could totally be going to the loans for the $500,000 house and for everything else, and they be considered a Black millionaire. So it's not as good as you think it is. It isn't. There's a reason why when you go to borrow money or you go to do something, you go to build a business, it's not that easy to go to your cousin or your uncle and get the cash that you need. It's not just a trust issue. They're just not that liquid. It's not a liquid millionaires. It's not what it is. And that doesn't exist in our community. Okay? But when you talk about currency, the last one, the one that I think is the most powerful, is transactional currency. It's when someone says, look, I don't care hell or high water. If you give me this token, I will give you this light. Now, this kind of goes back to the original asset correlation, right? This buys this. And the way economists will do this is they talk about the price of bread. So they always want to know how much bread can your token buy? How much bread can your dollar buy? How much bread can your cedi buy? How much bread can your CFA buy? Franc, your whatever, your euro. How much bread can your yen buy? Okay? And if they can determine that, then it determines the quality of life of the individuals. So you hold the currency and it's the quality of life. Most of us think about things like Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. But even when we think about Bitcoin, in order for it to have value, we always have to translate it to a transactional currency. You never say, well, I've got 2 Bitcoin. Who the hell cares? Yeah, I got 2 Bitcoins. They're worth $75,000 a piece. Oh, you got some money, man. You got $150,000. But we don't say, I've got 2 Bitcoin. Will you take my 2 Bitcoin? And your brain doesn't switch it back. I'm from Alabama. I can sit here right now and say, ¿Cómo talez-vous? ¿Cómo está? I can say, Jaximad. I can say, Kakdila and everything. How you doing? In a lot of languages. Kefahad. But the way my brain works is always going to translate that back to English so I can understand it. So there is no actual value for something if I constantly have to convert it back to the transactional currency. The most valuable currency is the transactional one. The one that I can pull out and trade it for something useful to my life. And if I can't trade it for some useful good, then what good is it? None at all. What good is it if I can't buy some lights? If I can't buy any of these wonderful products we sell? If I can't do any of that? But then But then we should ask ourselves another question. And this is a great question to be asked. This is a wonderful question to be asked. Okay? If I gave you this token in your hand right now and said, take it to Kroger's, you'll buy your groceries. They'll accept it as money. For every one that you have, it'll equal $1. How many of these would you take from me then? Now, I hate to be the kind of guy to say stuff like this, but in our community, we got to stop acting like we didn't do this before. But a lot of folks still running on food stamps. Now, they've got it to a card now. But it used to be that little intangible, those tangible little pieces of money inside a booklet. And we used to transact food stamps. Somebody needed some money for food stamps. You got $100, $200. I used to have an uncle walk around with overalls. Looked like he had two boobies. Because in one he had a big wad of US dollars and the other one had a big wad of food stamps. And you know what he used to do? Simple situation. Now, the folks who get the food stamps need a ride to the store. Folks that need a food stamp need this and that. They need other things. They need to go down and wash their clothes. Can't wash clothes with food stamps. So what would he do? He'd buy the food stamps from him. He'd buy the food stamps from him. Oh, see? He took US dollars and brought a non-country level currency holistically because it was transactional. Food stamps were extremely transactional. And so don't tell me this logic don't make sense to you, because it does make sense to you. It makes all the sense in the world. He would go down, and if the lady needed a ride somewhere, it was going to be $10. He'd say, give me $10 in food stamps. I'll take that. Or he'd say, give me $20 in food stamps. If she needed cash to wash her clothes, everything like that, he said, you give me $100 in food stamps, I give you $50 cash. Right? Now, she valued the cash because she don't understand the value of the transactional currency. She could have did what he did, and I'm going to tell you what he did. He would take that wad of food stamps and go down to the wholesale mart and buy a bunch of goodies. He'd buy Little Debbie snacks. He'd buy a bunch of potato chips. He'd buy some cigarettes. Well, I don't think he get cigarettes. He'd buy anything that allowed him to resell it, put it in his house, and he'd sell it to the people in the community. Now, I want you to think about it. I don't know if you did the math yet. But if I come and I buy 100 food stamps from you for $50, if I buy 100 food stamps from you for $50, I'm only down $50. If I buy $100 worth of potato chips that break down to 25 cents a bag, and I sell them for $1 a bag, then that means I get 400 bags of chips. I got $400. I spent $50. I got $400 back. Because he understood the value of a transactional currency. And we use basic language and call it food stamps and stuff, but the transactional currency is powerful because it buys stuff. And when you go from one market to the other, you can trade it. And he didn't mind if that market was inside one community. So once we start having the ability to talk about how we transact with each other, an individual currency that we can use, a actual currency that we can use between one another to buy things that we have, things change. I'll give you a great example, something that we already got in play. So Besco's real brand. We're a wholesaler. We accept FCR. We accept FCR. And there's plenty of ways that if you're a Freedom citizen, that you can buy FCR on the low and then transact it back with us and get 25% on top of it. We ain't going to double it like the food stamps, but we'll give you 25% on top of it, which increases your buying power. If you don't consume that thing, but you instead use it to buy a tumbler, and you use FCR to buy the tumbler, then you sell the tumbler, you'll get more cash out of it. I'm not going to do the numbers, but let's say that's 3x. So let's just say it costs 1 FCR and you get $3. Or say it costs 4 FCR and you get $12. Then that's the power of your community. And now you're in a closed buying system with a transactional currency. And anyone who wants a part of that closed buying system, imagine if that's you had this currency at Sam's warehouse. Will buy that currency from you because they understand the value of a transactional currency, just like my great uncle used to understand the value of food stamps. We need to start having that conversation. So it's a real interesting thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's one of those areas that we need to become a little more aware of. I'm in every show that I have by inviting you to come and become a citizen of the Freedom Nation. You become a citizen of the Freedom Nation, we've got all this all worked out already. You just come in. We actually have to go through a little process where we approve you, but once you're in, you have access to our currencies, you have access to our wholesale clubs, you have access to then buy housing from us, working. You can buy the currency and use it to purchase your house. That's a real thing because we want to give our currency a transactional quality. So we accept our own currency for things like housing, land, everything else. That gives us power and gives us negotiating and leverage, and it gives you power when you hold that currency in your hand because you can do stuff with it. Now, as a Voice of Freedom, I think next time I'm going to start this on my personal page instead of starting this here. I'm going to try to bring this baby back to life, but I think I'm going to bring the baby back to life little by little bit and then put in, and we're going to see how we can push it around. I didn't want to set this up. I didn't want to schedule it, but we're back on the format 2 times a week, live on YouTube and live on Facebook. If you don't follow us, please follow us so that you get the notifications every time we go live. We'll start posting the events so you get them at least 2, 3, 4 days ahead of time. This is your brother Farouk Hunter. I love educating our people. I love to see us grow. I want to see us do something awesome, and I'm hoping that we can do amazing things in the short future. And I hope that you consider becoming a member of the Freedom Nation because that's where we make all this stuff work. Peace out.